Well, good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me, in particular, Germán and Charles. And well, I'm going to present a lot of data, but don't worry, I will try to do it in an easy way. So now we have heard a lot about the challenges that we have today for formulating diets in specific. I think this was not the presentation. No. Well, don't worry. It was some few slides different. Okay, well, the challenges that we have today is we need to formulate, and I have a slide that even if the ingredients are increasing, so the problem is that also some prices for shrimp, at least in Mexico last year, they went down. So the problem is even worse regarding the fish meal, and the people still wanted to formulate with fish meal. So searching the fish meal, so we know that it has high digestibility, and aquaculture organisms, they need high digestibility ingredients. And they have ideal amino acid and fatty acid profiles. They have cholesterol, great palatability, and growth promoters. But talking about digestibility, and we heard a lot about this matter, is how can we know about the biological value of proteins? We know that proteins are change of amino acids, that they are bound together with peptides bonds. Sorry. And so we have the protein structure and primary proteins, the chains. And talking about the most important enzyme in the digestion, which is trypsin. Trypsin is a very specific enzyme that only caught in lysine and arginine. So the problem with the digestibility is when we don't have those amino acids in a high range, even if they say, well, we add some free amino acids, but the digestibility is affected. Also, not only for the presence of those amino acids in the protein, but also the periodicity that they get, because then you get very long pieces of polypeptides that they are not, they are going to take much longer time to digest. And also the same, all the enzymes together, pepsinogen that is converted to pepsine. So all of them, they have preferences. So this is one of the key problems with the digestibility. So the amino acids, they need to be digested in the intestine to be absorbed and enter into the enterocytes to rebuild the proteins, and the same for the triglyceride. So they have to rebuild and go inside the body. So looking into the digestibility, so we see that there is also the digestibility is much better for all the animal proteins than for the plant proteins. But still we need to substitute the fish meal. So for substitution, so we have plant proteins and we have also animal proteins that we can use instead of fish. So, and let me tell you the story of how I start working with the animal proteins. And it's because I was one in a lecture and I learned about, Well, they remind me that still the stable isotopes and something completely different, but just to enter into the subject, any element, it has protons and neutrons, but sometimes they are heavier, and they are called the stable isotopes. If they are more heavier, they are radioactive. But the stable isotopes, the only thing is that they are much more heavy. So the point is that in the body, there is a recycling proteins all the time, and the enzymes, they choose better the light isotopes than the heavier, not the stable. So this is why the food chain in the trophic chain, the stable isotopes concentrate. So I was very much willing to measure the assimilation. So the assimilation, that means how many amino acids, the one that comes from the feed, they go into the building of muscles for growth or whatever. So, and then thinking about this trophic chain, so all the aquatic organisms, they are the heaviest. So they are the most concentrated. So fish meal, it has a very high amount of stable isotopes compared to any herbivore, or no, it's not herbivore, it's omnivore, sorry, omnivore. So if you see the poultry byproduct meal, it has a very low, and the fish meal is very high. So if we combine, or we make diets with different amounts of poultry and fish meal, so we are able to do some measurement of model to see how much of this, of one meal to the other one, is assimilated. And after a certain time, so the tissues will turn over. It depends on the metabolic activity. So we find that blood is faster, and then liver, muscle, skin, or whatever. So our first approach was with the trout. And with the trout, you see, we have one diet that has only fish meal as a main protein, and they were changing until it's no fish meal, but it's only poultry byproduct. And what we found is that this thermal growth coefficient, it was it was no differences in growth, but you see not even in the protein efficiency ratio. However, when we measure the assimilation, so we see that the diet that had 33% poultry, it accumulated more, 49, and the same with and the poultry that has 33 is accumulated 41. So that means that poultry has a tendency to accumulate, to assimilate more in the tissues of fish, in this case trout, than fish meal. So we did some more experiments, and we found out that fish meal is also so high digestible in a short time that it goes to energy instead of building the muscles. So the second experiment we did with Totoaba McDonaldi, and we did the same experiment. We used, and let me tell you that Totoaba is a true carnivore, whereas trout is omnivore. So in this true carnivore, so we did the same with this 0, 0, and only poultry, and this crossing. But also we use poultry fat to compensate, and the fish oil, it was eliminated, just to be completely sure that no, this treatment, it was nothing, absolutely no fish oil at all. And you see the isotopic value, it went down. And the result was not surprising for this, but you see, when we had 2 parts of poultry with 1 part of fish meal, so the thermal growth coefficient, which is the specific, it's like the specific growth rate, but taking consideration temperature, it was significantly higher. So what about this here? So we consider that the fatty acids contained in the fish oil were not sufficient due to the lack of DHA or EPA. So based on this model of 2-to-1, we made another experiment where this was constant, 2 parts of poultry with 1 part of fish meal. But then this treatment is with fish oil. This one is with beef tallow, only beef tallow, and that is beef tallow plus DHA, EPA concentrate, and more concentrate. It's 50% or 100% of the requirement. And then the results, well, no, is here we can see the concentration of DHA in the diets. And well, those are the sources. This is fish oil, tallow doesn't have, and those are the diets. So if you see, here is 9, which is the one, probably it's come for the tiny part of fish meal that we used. And here is more, but still, we didn't reach the amount that fish oil has. However, here we didn't have differences in growth because the protein was exactly the same, but you see the feed conversion ratio, it was much better than the other diets. Later on, so we tried, knowing that the protein can be replaced, and even only if we use this DHA and EPA. So we made this work with the partial to total substitution of fish meal and fish oil. You see, this is why I changed the talk. Sorry. And so here we have the levels of the poultry meal with the fish meal. So here is completely replaced. This is completely free of fish meal. But also then also the fish oil was getting down, and we add DHA concentrate, and we use beef tallow to reach a similar approximate composition of the diets. So this is the fatty acid content in the diets, and you can see the DHA also, we failed to reach exactly the same amount here. But, well, and this is the linoleic acid, which is increased due to the beef tallow. So here we see that no difference in any of the parameters we found. And this is Seriola dorsalis, which is a yellowtail, which is also a true carnivore. So we need, this was an experiment for 2 months. So we need to go further for a long-term, as a commercial time, but still those are very good results. So here, just to remind, sorry, the differences in this DHA, even that we didn't reach, So the DHA in the body, it was exactly the same levels. So how if we add half of the DHA than the oil present in the diet, how we reach much higher, well, equally higher in the body. And the point is that this DHA concentrate that is now in the markets that comes from the microalgae, they are cold process. They are taking care for the extraction. So I can say now that this product together with fat animals, we can produce much better profiles with much better quality of the fatty acids than fish oil, sorry. So what we have been doing with the shrimps with this year, and I think we finished all the calculation for a couple of weeks ago. We have been working with shrimp and tilapia, but now I'm going to show only with shrimp to see also the replacement. And well, I used another slide in the other presentation showing that we know that even if all the ingredients are going up, as I said in the beginning, so soybean meal could probably compete with protein animals. So everybody wants to use soybean meal, and the soybean meal is very much used in shrimp nutrition. So here we made a first approach, a diet with only fish meal, and a second treatment with only poultry. And the third, it was poultry with soybean in a low amount. Here is this. And then poultry with soybean and higher amount. And in those two, there is no fish meal. There is no fish meal. So when we see the specific growth rate, so with fish meal, it was not the higher. So the higher was this one when we use poultry with soybean meal in a low amount. But equally, well, they were equal. But when we use more soybean, it goes down the growth. So here, we made another experiment when we use 50 and, well, half and half of soybean meal with poultry, and well, it was a mixture of fish meal and poultry, changing to soybean meal. And I'm going to go quickly just to see what is the problem. Earlier, we have shown that soybean meal can cause enteritis. But you see, for example, this is a histology of the hepatopancreas of the shrimp. And after 60 days, so you can start showing some problems with the hepatopancreas. So in a long term, so you have animals that probably, even if they don't die, they have problems in the intestine, which this cause stress. And this stress, it can cause the presence of free radicals. And this is not good for the immunity and health in general. So later on, so we are starting working with the bovine protein for Alberto. I will not say byproduct. So the bovine protein, and this is a very interesting because we tried the tallow, and the tallow is very interesting fat source for the animals. So here we have, since we prove that we can formulate without fish meal, so this experiment is in replacement of poultry byproduct meal. So here we have a zero bovine and only poultry with some soybean meal. So we were replacing until this with high bovine meal without poultry, only the bovine. And at the end, so we saw differences in growth, but you see, with high bovine meal, it was much higher growth, specific growth rate, and also the feed conversion ratio lowered down significantly. So that was a surprise because there is no, at that time it was not a clear explanation, but you see, measuring the apparent digestibility, so we saw that as long as we use more or it is bovine, so the digestibility increase. So it has something to do with digestibility and also probably with the bovine fat. And this is, I'm sorry because maybe the slides change. I added the newest. But you see here, this is the blood parameters because we also like to see the health. So regarding if you see protein, glucose, cholesterol, and triglycerides in the hemolymph, so here we see that these, the ones that they grow much more, we have higher free cholesterol and higher triglycerides. The reason, we don't know. We don't know. We need to search more about the metabolism of fats, but any of these levels are regarded as from a shrimp, from unhealthy shrimp. And when we see the fatty acids content in diets, no, this is in the hepatopancreas. The one in the diet I didn't show, but here you see the linoleic acid, which is a omega-6. It went down because beef tallow has very low content of linoleic acid. And the linoleic acid is the one that is much more present in the plant oil. Soybean oil, for example, 46 to 50% of the fatty acids belong to linoleic acid. And this is not good for the health because linoleic with linolenic acid, they compete in the metabolism. And a higher content of linoleic, it causes irritation in the cells. So that means that beef tallow together with the DHA, it can be an excellent combination instead of fish oil. And here also we have the DHA and EPA, and you see we have a higher amount here accumulated in the treatment with high bovine meal. And also we did another experiment with pork meal. Is the same, exactly the same that we did with in the last with bovine, with the total substitution for pork. This is pork, and this is the poultry. So it's the same, with the same composition. And here, well, we used, again, DHA, we used cholesterol, and beef tallow in the case. So there is, even if no significant difference there are here, but still is in a tiny way of almost being a significant difference because it's from 1 to 1.46 with a p-value of 0.051. But then this favors also the pork. But something that is intriguing here, sorry, that was, no, it was the digestibility. Sorry, it's because I changed the presentation with the last data, and that confusing me because I was expecting another ones. But we did our digestibility, and the digestibility with the pork meal lowered down. So we don't know why it lowered down the digestibility of pork compared to the bovine. And we need to do more, and this doesn't explain why they still growing. Maybe they eat much more to compensate the low digestibility. But the point is that when you give the shrimp or fish a good source of energy, they don't need to take protein as an energy. Protein is very easy for any aquatic organism to take it directly as energy because they don't use carbohydrates. So that's the point. Well, thank you very much for your attention.